Is Thunderbolts the big win the MCU desperately needs right now? Marvel's at a somewhat interesting yet unreliable state right now with audiences. I know there's plenty of people who have gotten used to the saying that Marvel has gone off the rails. I think they've had their fair share of good movies after Endgame, Black Panther Wakanda Forever being my favorite, a few others being Guardians 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, Spider-Man No Way Home, Shang-Chi. I even fairly enjoyed Doctor Strange 2, but it's also had some movies that are underwhelmingly middle of the road and forgettable, particularly Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania and Captain America Brave New World. And on the show side, there were some great ones, a lot of good ones, and a few that I really didn't care for, especially Secret Invasion and Agatha All Along. So I understand why people feel the way they feel right now with Marvel, especially because pre-pandemic we were used to getting just like banger after banger and Marvel being reliable. You know, we got Guardians 2, Homecoming, Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War, Endgame, Far From Home, like one after the other. And now sometimes they're less reliable because there's a lot more stuff that's, you know, it varies more in quality. And I understand that, even though I wouldn't go as far as to say the MCU is just, you know, lost it after Endgame. I feel like that's too harsh. I think the most common criticism is that lately the MCU has just been so focused on pleasing everyone because they really want a win after Endgame that they often end up pleasing no one because they play it safe and don't take many risks. But going into Thunderbolts, I was incredibly excited. The marketing really sold me. It just felt unique from what we were getting. You know, all these other super popular sequels. This was something a little different. The cast, the director, I just went in with really high expectations. I will say they were mostly met. Thunderbolts is a great time at the theater, and it is a movie that feels like it has a lot of soul and life in it, especially because these characters are different from just yet another hero facing a villain. They are people with blood on their hands and who have not really dealt with their traumas and mistakes from a healthy emotional perspective, reluctantly trying to get together in order to survive. Like you've seen in the title, this review will have spoilers. I'm going to be talking about all the different aspects of the movie that if you've watched the film, you've heard about. So if you've seen Thunderbolts, keep watching. If you haven't, I recommend you go out and watch it. But if you've seen the movie and you're here with me to break down what we liked the most about the film, then I'm glad you joined me for this video. So our main character is Florence Pugh, and she's dealing with depression and feelings of aimlessness, especially after having, you know, lost her sister and having gone through one of the worst childhoods you can imagine. And let me say, Pugh is so charismatic as the lead, and she brings so much heart and vulnerability. Aside from that, she brings a lot of like humor and charm that I don't even think we felt from some of the more recent MCU stars. Like, I think she even outdoes like Anthony Mackie and Paul Rudd's latest lead performances here. I feel like unlike Brave New World, the actors here really get to breathe and give that charisma to the film and to the audience. And so basically everyone kind of stands out here. Sebastian Stan, we've been with him for a long time with Bucky, so maybe he's a less impressive performance just because we're already used to that character. But you know, he's Sebastian Stan and he's great. So speaking of other highlights, we got David Harbour, who is hilarious. I think he gets way more to work with here than he did in Black Widow. Same with Pugh. We get early on that he just wants glory and fame and recognition, and that's his arc. Like, by the end of the movie, he gets that. And I mean, is it a positive arc? I guess. But he also is there for his daughter, so there's that. It's not just like, I want selfish things and I get them, even though I enjoy that Thunderbolts is a little different with that. Wyatt Russell, also great. We know that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier established that he is, in fact, an asshole. But in this one, we're rooting for him more because, you know, he's helping the main cause and he's learning to work with people. But I think his ego and his need to be recognized give Wyatt Russell a lot of like really humorous things to work with. Hannah John Kamen, also great, even if I would have liked to know a little more about her character, if that makes sense, besides what we already knew from Ant-Man and the Wasp. But again, I thought she really gave the movie a lot of like sarcastic humor and heart. Julia Louis-Dreyfus as basically the antagonist here. Like, we saw her quite a bit in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Here she gets center stage and she's so entertaining. A lot of great stuff going between her and Mel, played by Geraldine Viswanathan. Also a standout for me, and I'm really glad she got as much to work with as she did. And I really enjoyed her scenes with Sebastian Stan. Louis Pullman also, I guess, took me a little bit to get used to, because I feel like we got to see like a lot more, I use this word a lot, charisma from him in other projects like Top Gun Maverick and Lessons in Chemistry. Here he's just a lot sadder and more reserved, but that's kind of the main arc of his character and the main thing Thunderbolts is dealing with. So once I understood that, I really understood how we could connect to Sentry / Bob. I enjoyed the Bob jokes a lot, like just him saying I'm Bob, like it was fun. And Louis Pullman was a great choice to play this guy. I really love this dude and everything he's been doing in his career so far. So our inciting incident is that Pugh is sent by Val to allegedly stop Ghost from robbing some secret compound of hers, except they've all been set up to try and kill each other and then get incinerated, whoever's the last one standing. So this fight scene between them all kicks off the momentum of the film, and I thought it was so great. The choreography, the editing, the music. Let me say, the score by Son Lux stands out throughout the whole runtime. And soon after that whole interaction, Taskmaster is dead. We all kind of knew going into this that Taskmaster wasn't going to make it all the way, but I don't think any of us predicted it was going to be this quickly. Ghost kind of just shoots her in the head, and it's like, yeah, that happened. It's very inconsequential in terms of like a Marvel death for a character who's back from multiple projects, but I enjoyed it. It kind of sets up this idea that anything can happen and that like this movie isn't taking itself insanely seriously, but also like, yeah, these people have blood on their hands, and Taskmaster was made to be sort of sympathetic and a victim of her father's wrongdoings in Black Widow, and in this one, like one of the main characters just kills her like that, and we're like, yeah, you're going to have to like that character as the movie goes on, and you kind of just have to buy that, and I liked that, honestly. So then they learn that they have to work together in order to not die, because the entire force of the CIA and the US government is after them, and their different abilities, their different pasts, their different quirks basically come clashing, and that's one of the most enjoyable parts of having a team movie like this. Once they escape and Bob gets captured, we learn a bit more about Project Sentry, that Val basically wants a super weapon to make America and her as the CIA and the head of it the strongest force there is in a post-Avengers world. We saw her try to do this in Wakanda Forever by getting a hold of vibranium, and now this is sort of like the culmination of her plan. We don't see too much of his abilities as Sentry later on, but we see a taste of it when he faces off against them, and then of course when he turns into Void, we see how actually indestructible he is. But you know, that's classic US government for you. And then the remaining Thunderbolts of course get rescued by Red Guardian, and that leads to another great action scene where Bucky comes in on the highway, takes out Val's men and captures them, and he's like, I'm going to use you as evidence. And that honestly made sense to me, like as a guy who's faced off against aliens and multiple threats in different Marvel movies, that even though he's a congressman, he would take matters into his own hands if he really needs to, considering, you know, Val is the head of the CIA, needs to go. Pretty soon after, Mel calls him and she's like, you know what? I'm with you. Bring everyone. And he's like, all right, we're going. We're going to be a team. I'm letting you go. And they're all like, fine, I guess. Now, the final act is where I take some issue with the film. And originally, when I watched the movie, I was a bit underwhelmed by the whole thing. But as I thought more about it, the more I enjoyed it. And the more I thought it actually really suited the movie. So they break into the Avengers Tower and they have a great fight on the ground floor. And then Val's like, I left the door open for y'all, just come up. And they have that great elevator entrance, and Val tells them their plan, and Sentry comes in, and there's a great action scene. One thing I don't get is why after Sentry, you know, develops this god complex, which was kind of underexplored in the aftermath of everything, but you know, he like chokes Val and then gets incapacitated by the kill switch by Mel, and then they kind of just leave his body and they're like, I'm sending cleanup, and they leave. Like, they don't even make sure that cleanup, whoever they are, is gonna take care of Sentry just laying there, considering he's allegedly stronger than all the Avengers. He's kind of just there, and they're like, okay, we'll leave him, whatever. Like, they've never done this kill switch before. They don't know if it's gonna work. So that's like, I'm really not a plot hole guy at all, but that was just like, I know shit's gonna hit the fan from here. The Thunderbolts kind of break up after this fight, which I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of soon. But it led to a really important scene, which I was like, oh, that's why we needed to sort of pause in the action, because Yelena opens up to Alexei about all her frustrations with him and how she's just had this feeling in her childhood of emptiness enveloping her, that she can't really feel joy or meaning or purpose, and she's sort of just drifting, doing whatever she can to, you know, stay afloat. And this is a wonderful scene, played well by both of them. The way Alexei sort of says, I look at you and I don't see your mistakes. That was exactly what she needed to hear, and it's a lovely moment between the actors. Then, like I predicted, everything goes south, and the Sentry becomes void, and he's standing there. And I really loved his effect of like the way he turns people into shadows. And we have this great moment where all the Thunderbolts come back in order to save lives, which is, you know, different from even like the movie says, punching and shooting, which is what they usually do. It's their first heroic act together. Then the void is like encompassing all of New York. So Yelena sort of walks in. And this is where I started to feel divided about the movie, because I was liking all the hand-to-hand action combat so far. I was like, if this becomes sort of like a mind battle as the climax, I'm going to be really disappointed. Looking back now, I understand why it fit the movie a lot better, because the movie is about opening up and resolving your issues together. When Yelena's like running through all her traumas, including like falling on the table in the Red Room, or fighting herself like laying on a bathroom floor. This is the part I would still change. Bob asked the rest of the team, what did you guys see? And Alexei's basically like, doesn't matter, we're here together. But I'm like, I want to see a little more of like, what did Ghost see? What did Ava had to deal with to get through here? What did Alexei have to see to get through there? Because this whole thing that they just did was a big sacrifice. Like they just confronted their emotions head on for the greater good, which is something they've never done before. I would have liked to see that. I think that's maybe the one thing I was missing from this climactic battle. And I never thought I'd say this, but the conflict is actually resolved through a group hug at the end, because Void tells Bob, yeah, you're nothing and you'll always be nothing, and I'll make sure of that. And then Bob starts to punch the Void, and it starts to envelop him because he thinks it's this courageous thing that he's doing, you know, facing it head on, but it's actually just encompassing him, all the darkness. So they hug him and say, actually, the brave thing to do is to let go of your past and your darkness and to embrace who you are together with other people. That's actually very touching. Even if, you know, the part where they were like running through Bob's memories and him like flipping signs, I was like, I don't know if I'm vibing with this, but I feel like it was actually a unique climactic battle compared to all the Marvel movies. It's just like punching and shooting and explosions. So they come back to the real world, and Val announces that they're all the real Avengers. I think maybe the reason I was initially underwhelmed by this ending was because I would have liked to see a little more of like the Thunderbolts like having the win over her, like saying like, yeah, we got you, you're screwed, you have no choice now, we're forcing you to do this. I kind of didn't like how Val just got away with everything, but at the same time, that made sense that she would do that. Like, she would be like, oh shit, I'm screwed, how can I flip this and save my ass? I can give them everything they want. And Yelena's right, they own her now, they have all the blackmail on her, and Val's basically a puppet, so they did win. I guess I was just expecting her to like like completely go to prison or even like, get killed by Sentry or whatever. But it is, you know, a good ending for them because they end up getting recognition and they're the most unlikely people to become the world's new hope as the new Avengers, and that's what they are. Quickly about the post-credit scene, we now have their new Avengers tower. One thing kind of puzzled me about this post-credit scene, it's basically confirmed that Sam Wilson is trying to form his own Avengers, and he's like filing for copyright that they're the new Avengers, and he doesn't like that they're using the name. And I'm like, is Sam really that petty? Would he actually have an issue? Because like it's Bucky leading them, and you know they've gotten along, and if Bucky can forgive John Walker for everything he did, then I feel like Sam would especially be able to as well. So I wonder if what that means for Avengers Doomsday is that there's going to be different factions of Avengers at odds at one another. But of course, the most important takeaway is that the Fantastic Four have entered the Sacred Timeline, and that really excited me because it's probably going to be taking place right during the events of Doomsday, and apparently it was filmed on the set of Doomsday way after they wrapped on Thunderbolts. So I really want to see how Fantastic Four First Steps address that, a movie I'm also really excited for. Overall, Thunderbolts, I really enjoyed it. I was mostly satisfied. I did have some issues with the final act, but for the most part it was awesome. The cast was so great and their dynamic as a team made the whole movie. It has genuine energy, genuine soul, genuine things to laugh about and be excited for. Even if these weren't some of your favorite MCU characters before, they'll definitely become some of them after this movie. And I'm also really excited to rewatch it, and I think it's going to become one of the more liked films of the multiverse saga in hindsight. Thank you again for watching this spoiler review with me. Let me know what were your favorite and least favorite parts of Thunderbolts, where you think it ranks amongst Phase 4 and 5, the multiverse saga so far. Who was your favorite character and performance, and what are you hoping to see from these characters and overall in Avengers Doomsday? And as always, stay tuned for more content here on the channel.